Okay, episode 16 of Anime for Trashdwellers, and we are talking about Mr. Love, Queen's Choice. This is based off of an app game that, according to an Anime News Network article, has over 90 million downloads. Holy shit. And yeah, I'm struggling to believe that. Because I used to get super lame ads for this game whenever I played a quiz app game. And once it was revealed it was going to be made into an anime, I decided to download it. And even though I got hooked on it for a fair while, it only quit because my game didn't save. It was weird. Because I was like, oh, that hard effort. But more so, oh, thank God I don't have to play this garbage anymore. But yeah, as someone who has played this shit game, I am shocked to hear that it had that many downloads. Something I found amusing when I first played it, the amount of story available by the time it was greenlit for an anime series, you didn't even know 2 of the 4 hot boys' magic powers. Like, that's how little plot there was. So yes, after playing the game, I knew I definitely had to watch the anime. So here goes! Episode 1, we are introduced to our protag, who at uni age, after her daddy died, inherited the TV studio and TV show he ran. I mean, how am I supposed to root for this girl when her dream job just landed in her hands? But it's a shit company and it's been run into the ground. But it's all good, because the type of bullshit luck you need to get your own TV program to run does merge over to other aspects of your life, such as when she's out on a snack run for her TV crew, she just happens to run into the hot pop sensation Kiro. He fucking grabs her mouth so that she doesn't shout out, oh my god, it's that famous guy Kiro. And she does not react in pure terror and fucking freaks out. She's just like, okay, handy means talk time's over. And she ends up just chilling with him on a park bench, because not only did she run into him, but he also was just willing to spend time with her. He grabs from the packet of chips one of them little freebie cards you used to get. I'm not even sure if chips still do those types of promotions. And he's excited because he pulled out his favorite card, the Bad Hero card, which has a picture of a shadowy figure and the fucking Batman symbol. In the app, he loved Batman and Avengers because I think they tried to use it as a defining personality trait instead of what it actually is, which is a guaranteed thing every 10 to 17-year-old boy loves. And he just happens to know about Protag's crappy show and is actually interested in being a guest. Like, this girl has that privileged, rich, straight white man with connections privilege level going on here. On her way back to the studio, someone with black gloves on pushes her out in front of oncoming traffic. Like, they push this bitch so hard she literally jumps like a meter. But then she's saved by a handsome bishy. Who would have thought? After this instance, we just see this copper just floating mid-air. Like, there's no air of mystery to it or anything. He's just fucking chilling 6 meters off the ground like it's a normal thing to do. Something beautiful I just realized. In this Japanese dub, the characters go by their Japanese names, but the subtitles go by their English names in the English translation for the app, and the names are pretty terrible, so I'm very excited for this. Next, Protag goes to meet up with Professor Lucien, who's gonna go on a TV show. For the longest time, I kept reading his name as Whisper is the Lucifer. Protag doesn't even realize he's a professor, because as she puts it, but he's too young and hot to be a professor. So her TV show is basically a supernatural investigation show. And Lucian's like, the fuck you need a person of science on your conspiracy theory show? But then she asks him to explain the science behind teleportation, even though in the game he's a psych professor, which he does, and in a monologue explains that it was simple enough for me to understand, whilst his whiteboard is just covered in these long, complex looking equations. Like, yeah, bitch, I'm fucking sure it was. He then discusses the power system in this universe. It's evol for evolution, but also evol for love spelled backwards. It's basically people have specific magic abilities because they have more advanced genes. Cool. Simple. Straightforward. Got it. See, I'm pretty sure when you first meet him in the game, he's constantly talking over the top of her, completely ignoring her at times, and even calls her an idiot. So yeah, Anime Lucien is a vast improvement. After meeting up with him, she just happens to run into the kid who's been teleporting people everywhere, which she was looking for her show. I don't remember this kid and his plot in the app game, but it may have been a year since I last played it, so I just can't remember. But after this happens, our floating copper's here again, just talking in his headpiece as if him floating around in the sky is normal. And this bitch is all ready to make the scoop, even though the teleporting kid is nowhere in sight to interview. But then, oh no, their only investor, the Loveland Group, has pulled out. Yes, they all live in the city of Loveland. The name's in this show, guys. So she storms the Loveland Group's office to speak to the CEO, who everyone is afraid of because when he enters, everyone goes silent, except for Protag, who he doesn't get mad at. It's almost like she's the center of the universe in this show or something. And by the way, he's the guy who froze time to save her from being hit by a car earlier on. And also, in the app game, she first meets him in a proper meeting and not just shouting at him in the entranceway like here. And as she goes to meet him, some slutty star leaves his office in tears. So he was supposed to be the Elon Musk of this universe. But now since he's kinda a dodgy cunt, they're letting that comparison slide. Just in case you were wondering what the animation level for this show is at, it's where even the animation in the opening is shit. She awakens from a dream where she was in a dirty alleyway and this guy was wielding a knife at her. She does manage to get a meeting with the CEO, Victor, who informs her that in order for him to consider reinstating his funding towards her recording studio, their latest episode has to be trending in the top 10 trends. Honestly, as long as there isn't a wrestling show on that day or it's not a K-pop star's birthday, they should be all good, fam. She tells him how fucking cool it must be having superpowers, and he's like, have you even fucking seen X-Men? Like, no. She introduces Lucien to her two head of staff, and they're patting her on the back, cigars in hand. We don't know how you found the professor who's this hot, but he's gonna make us millions, kid. They're discussing how for the program they need to get in the teleporting kid, and Protag figures that they could possibly find him through the police department, because nothing reeks of sleazy quite like going through the police to find a minor you want to put on TV. She gets to the police station and meets up with the copper in charge of the kid's case, Officer Gavin. What a sex bomb of a name. Just for clarity, his Japanese name is Haku, and that somehow got translated into Gavin. Unless it's based off of his Chinese name, which is probably much less shit than this one. But not only is Gavin a sexy police officer, he's also a sexy senpai from Protag's high school days who was a bad boy, and hence scarred her away from being friends with him. So Protag's just in a daze like, how the fuck is this droppy a detective and not a drug dealer? Instead of politely answering some questions for her and saying goodbye or just telling her to fuck off, he just full on invites this journo out on a fucking investigation with him. And he is explaining to her, don't worry, that kid won't teleport you. And oh no, it's that same dirty alleyway with that same knife-wielding fiend that she saw in her dream. Oh no, it's almost like she has superpowers too. Ha! Bet you don't think superpowers are cool now that you have some. But she has lame fucking useless ones because Gavin had to save her via getting the wind to fly her up into the air. Like if that were me, I'd be like, yep, I'm good fam. Think I'd rather take my chances with the knife fella. They get the kid into X-Men foster care, and Protag decides she won't drag this poor child on her TV show to exploit him to the masses. What a great gal. And before Gavin heads off, he gives Protag a very special gift. He gives her a bracelet with a GPS in it. Cunt fucking gives her a stalker bracelet as a gift. Wow. She must feel so safe. In case they don't mention it in the anime, I'm mentioning it here. His wind powers allow him to feel where people are. So yeah, he has stalker wind powers. After this, hooray! Her TV show trends. Like, surely since they felt they needed to put the kid in the show to add a bit of meat to it and then decide not to because it's unethical, that the show should therefore be shit. I mean, it could be because the only reason the show trends is because Kiro tweeted it. So it trends because it's piggybacked onto a K-pop tweet. Makes sense. Not that it is Korean. Actually, I don't think they specifically state the country this is set in, but we'll assume it's China. Then, after a long day at work and returning home, would you looky here? Lucian's her new neighbour. And he says to her with his devilish eyes, I had no idea you lived here. Like, fuck you didn't. In the span of one episode, Protag has developed 2 stalkers. Like, that's a big feat. I really feel for this poor girl. Now, the deep and meaningful quote for this series, which we know because it's in the opening and it's been mentioned in both episodes so far, is, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that, aka a quote from the Red Queen from Alice Through the Looking Glass. Which I think we can all agree is some silly nonsense that this show has decided to see much deeper meaning in than there actually is. So the episode ends with the evil anti-X-Men organization Black Swan, like the one in M. Night Shyamalan's Glass, except they're not after ripped as fuck James McAvoy. And when they're evilly talking about taking down the Queen, they dramatically quote this in their dramatic take over the world speech. Like, okay, you just keep on trying to make that sound cool, because it never will. Episode 3. It continues on from Protag and Lucian's awkward conversation in front of their apartments, and he tells her, often when the chances of something happening are low, we mistake it for destiny. Nah, mate. I doubt her first thought about this apparent coincidence isn't destiny. But how the fuck did this creep find out where I live? She has a dream that Gavin is aiming a gun at her. I wonder if it'll come true or not. She has a meeting with Victor where he's just being a bit of a cunt towards her. He might call her stupid. I can't remember. On her way to work, Gavin offers her a lift, which she doesn't take because of how bad his driving was last time. Hang on. A main character in a reverse harem show said no, and her rejection was respected? What the fuck type of insane show is this? Now, the show is set on interviewing the owner of this restaurant in town called Souvenir. I would not put Souvenir under the category of good names for restaurants, but more cool sounding foreign words to make my business sound fancy. This restaurant is a peculiarity because all the Yelp reviews give it 5 stars for food and 1 star for service. Okay, that never happens. No matter how good the food is at a place, people will hate it because of poor service. Heck, they will hate it even if the service is good because people are petty. No one will tell people how delicious their meal was if they waited too long for their food, or if they didn't like the way their waitress addressed them, or if the table across from them was too noisy, or any other stupid petty reason to hate a place. Okay, I guess you could call the reviews a mystery, but I wouldn't really call it enough of a mystery to showcase on a show called Mystery Finder. The most famous item on the menu is pudding, like the gelatin type ones that are so good. So Protag cooks up some pudding for her meeting with Kiro, since Kiro will appear in this episode of Mystery Finder, which she spills, so sneaky Victor, yep, he's just hanging out at Kiro's record label because he had business there. Makes a replacement one. Oh my god, during this meeting, Kiro's manager was there and I was having flashbacks to the game where like 50% of the gadgets you got were of this gun. Like, no, I want my sexy vampire Gavin card, not you. So Protag has been spending all week trying to get into Souvenir because it's closed, like all the time. But then the old waiter who works there lets her in. Upon arrival, she desperately begs to get an interview with the owner, since her deadline for Victor is tomorrow, and if she doesn't do what he wants, he'll pull her funding, and she's been trying for the past 4 days to get into this place. And yet the owner turns her away, but then she's like, I was being selfish. I should eat a meal here first. Like, no? You were wanting to conduct an interview for this restaurant that would gain them not only free advertising, but you would most importantly be paying them for the interview. So the apparently amazing food they serve here is like 2 bacon strips, because that's what it looks like she's eaten. And then when we get to the pudding, when Protag takes a single bite, she starts crying. We all act like it's a dramatic reaction, but it's all something we've all felt like doing at least once. Like when I had Macca's for the first time in a couple of months, heaven. Protag explains it's because she lost all her memories from 5 years old and younger. Legit. How many memories do people have of their lives before they were 5? Because I don't think it'd quite be enough to be upset about or act like you're missing out on anything. But she remembers this flavor. I can barely remember living in my own house at age 4, let alone something as specific as a flavor. Shout out to those cool cats out there that can remember the taste of crayons and grass from their childhood. After her delicious meal, the owner, who is also the chef, says she can interview the waiter, but not him, the owner being none other than Victor, because fuck it, in the little to no spare time he'd have as a CEO, he spends it partially running a Yelp review 5-star restaurant. Why can't he just be like normal billionaires and spend it on his coke and sex island? Protag watches some fireworks with Lucien. Don't ask me what the occasion is for said fireworks. It's never explained. It explains that he sees her as a lab rat, but then laughs it off. Like, nah, the university is funding his apartment's rent for the sake of his thesis on her. Protag is talking about her job, and she says, I want to keep making good programs. I'm sorry, keep? That's the word you're using, keep? Implying that you currently make good programs, when in actuality, the closest real-world example of this show would be something along the lines of Ghost Hunters. Then Gavin confronts Lucien with his gun. Oh my god, her second dream became real! And then Lucien puts up a force field to protect her. Okay, in the game, his force field wasn't introduced until at the time I was playing it, it was probably the 3rd latest chapter, which came out quite a while later than the original anime proposal. And the preview for next week is the Hacker Arc! Okay, the entire Hacker Arc chapter did not occur until after the anime proposal. Like, whoever the fuck wrote the script for this anime watched this app like a hawk and fucking grabbed any new chapters released in order to have something happen in the anime. Episode 4. And it wasn't Gavin who shot at them, but a sniper that Gavin found with his sneaky wind powers. At the office, the Minor character, aptly called Minor, just pops in like, yo, I used to go to school with you, and I need a job, and I got a hot tip. In the game, he at least turns up for an interview. He doesn't have the goal to rock up to a TV station and ask for a job without any proper experience or credentials. But he tells them all about Key, the almighty triple threat recently discharged soldier, SM Halloween contest veteran and winner and overall fascinator of the group, Shiny Key. No, unfortunately. This is Key the Hacker, who 17 years ago hacked a dodgy genetics company and then retired at the top of his hacking game. But now he's back! Shiny Key does have comebacks. And when he's not in the military, he posts on Insta like daily, so does that count as hacking skills? This isn't really hot news, as one of her staff, Kiki, already knew. But they hire the cunt anyway, because nepotism! And oh my gosh, guess who receives an email from Key about a hackers convention? Because yes, if hackers did have conventions, they would definitely use unsecure emails for invitations. She attends because yes, This is a real thing. And in this universe, hackers wear wacky clothing, like dressing as goths or wearing black leather bodysuits, as opposed to what they actually wear, which would be food-stained track pants. And one of the hackers she meets is Kiro! Yeah, because it's brought up that he's a hacker, but not the fact that he uses his ability to fuck with websites' algorithms in order to give his pop music more hits and therefore fabricating his career success. Like, I'd put two and two together, bitch, why didn't you? But oh nah, there's a bomb! But then Kiro rallies all the hackers together and they hack the planet and save the day. But then, Protag falls into the Hacker Death Trap Locked Room Challenge that she and Kiro have to navigate through. It is here that Kiro confesses that Ki was his master, and he has taken on that name and continued his work, and she's like, Ki? But you're an idol! Like, yes, exactly, bitch! Ki is an idol! Stan Ki, everyone. Sassiest guy around. So in this locked room, Kiro's gotta get that password correct, and Protag remembers she dreamt the first 3 numbers of the password. So she tells him, do you know any numbers that start with these 3 digits? And yes, he does. He knows one with 1 whole extra digit. The fucking password to their death room challenge was 4 fucking numbers long. At a hackers convention? But there is a reason why this room was so easy to find, and Protag got that email. It's so that evil Black Swan could do the evil thing of revealing to Protag that they assassinated her father. Oh, she finally got some closure on how her father passed away. Man, Black Swan, so compassionate. When she gets home late, Lucien calls her up because he knows she got home late. Like, Christ, Lucien, you've been living there, what, like a week? And you're already fucking monitoring her movements? Fucking, she better have signed a waiver for the uni to give you permission to do that. Episode 5. So, for the next Miracle Finder episodes, I've called it Miracle Finder and Mystery Finder. I don't fucking know. I'm going to assume the subbers didn't know either and they use the two interchangeably as well. They decide to cover 2 stories. One of a girl who's been missing for 6 months, and one about a message board in a cafe where if you put confession post-it notes on there, you apparently end up with a high success rate of hooking up with your crush. Wow! Which out of the 2 sounds more interesting? So the missing girl used to attend Protag's old high school, so she heads there. And when she interviews this one girl, she responds, oh yeah, she also has magic powers. I don't care if powers are canonical in this universe. The vast majority of the population don't know about them and therefore wouldn't nonchalantly bring it up in a general conversation like that. Gavin's investigating the missing girl 6 months after she went missing. Go figure. After that, he makes sure that Protag keeps up with her other investigating of checking out that cafe's embarrassing post-it note board. When they go there, she reminisces about how she left a note there for a friend of hers after she left town, and she had absolutely no way at all to get in contact with her. Even though this show is set in modern day, and she would have had multiple ways of keeping in contact with her high school friend. Protag removes from high school when she saw the owner of the shop give Gavin some money, and she assumed Gavin was extorting the business. What? He was fucking 16 years old. What the fuck would Gavin do to them if they didn't pay up? Leave his used chewing gum on the bottom of all their tables? Strangely enough, no. This was not the case. He saved their son and paid their medical bills. Now, if this were the Australian version, then he wouldn't have had any medical bills to pay to begin with. After the 2 of them investigate the missing girl case together more, because yes, a police officer would really be just hunky-dory having a journo hop along with them during their private investigation. Plus, why aren't they interviewing this girl's family and instead just random students they find attending this school? Plus, how did Protag get permission to go on a school campus? Eventually, just as Protag's about to head home for the day, the missing girl turns up. So she's like, right, and follows her. Except that it's not the girl. It's her twin brother in a wig and skirt. Dedication, bruh. is about to bash the shit out of Protag when dun dun dun, it's Gavin, who found her with his magic wind stalker powers. After that's been sorted, Protag's confused. Gavin has to explain to her that even though her tracking device came off, he could still find her with his stalker wind powers. And then she's like, so why did I need to wear the tracker in the first place? And Gavin responds with, hey, let's change the subject. Like, no! Don't make his confession of stalking her with not one method, but two methods cute. It's creepy. Kinda ain't protecting her with it. Like, seriously, nothing too dangerous is gonna happen to the girl when she takes off the bracelet while she's showering or while she's sleeping. So cut your for safety bullshit. We did also have a flashback where Gavin was fighting some punks on the roof of the school, as you do. And one of them pushes him off the fucking roof. There are high school bullies, and then there are literal murderers. Majority of the time, these two are very separate things. Whilst falling, Gavin thinks back to him protecting his mum from his abusive military father in their massive mansion of a home. Fuck, that was a lot in one screenshot. But then Gavin gets the courage to summon his Evo for the first time because he hears Protag playing the piano and thinks how he wants to protect her. These thoughts apparently all happen in like 1 or 2 second span of time he has before he smushes into the ground. Like, fuck off, they do. After this fall, he got Mina to hide his confession letter to Protag in her desk. And he asked Mina to rewrite it for him first because it was covered in blood. But Mina's like, fuck it, she'll find his AIDS letter romantic. Episode 6. Because Protag has been working so hard, the girls at work organise for her to go on a date with Lucien to some fields. They find the little kitten and give it back to the old lady who makes a little woven charm thingy. So Protag makes one for Lucien and she's like, sorry it didn't come out too well. And he responds, ha ha ha, yeah, it is shit. Then they're walking around some fields and Protag's like, wow, aren't fields nice? And then she just quotes from memory a line from The Little Prince. And one that doesn't even fit the situation. Like, if you're gonna make her do something as unrealistic as quote an obscure children's book, at least have her quote one that makes some sense in the context it's used in. What's with all these kids' book quotes? None of that appeared in the Gap game. And then Lucien takes her to the main destination spot, a tree. But it induces a fever dream in Protag and she remembers when she was little and used to play with Lucien. Then she sees 9-year-old Lucien get hit by a fucking car. Whilst all of this is happening, Gavin's fighting this super hot punk who just casually drops, oh yeah, by the way, your special evil task force doesn't even incarcerate or rehabilitate people, they just kill them. I'm not sure how this rando punk knows this over a guy that actually works there, but whatever. So then Gavin goes to see for himself. He goes to their super futuristic headquarters and looks over their fancy future computers, and when he checks all the files, oh no, it just says they have no idea where their prisoners are. Fuck the police! Oh nah, this shit isn't getting cancelled anytime soon like Paw Patrol. Only dodgy coppers in this program. Like, Gavin is the exception in this show because he somehow didn't know, which I guess if you mainly do field work and don't work in the prisons or rehab programs, then yeah, how the fuck would you know? Like he even stalks Protag and is still considered one of the better coppers. When Lucien's in the weird Black Swan shrine room because, oh no, he was working for them all along. Yeah, this isn't revealed until ages into the app game, but he's kind of a creepy cunt, so it's not really a surprise. He retells that since the car accident, he hasn't been able to properly feel emotions. You can have personality changes as a result of brain damage, so hey, maybe it is accurate. But he feels a tug in his heart when he thinks of Protag, and he symbolizes this whilst holding her fucked woven keychain against his chest and withers in pain. But it could just be him going, ugh, the loops in this woven thing are so uneven, how'd she fuck it up this bad? And now, onto the best scene in the episode. Project arrives at work for her excited staff to tell her that the famous American network, HBS, known for running the world #1 variety programs. No, variety shows don't exist in the US. The only thing that's managed to be somewhat popular over there is American Ninja. And Ninja being a fucking Japanese program originally. So the program's gonna be set all over the world. Okay, maybe The Amazing Race, but I don't want to watch that show anymore anyway. And it's gonna be set in Loveland City, and they want help from their film studio, as opposed to any of the much bigger, larger ones, but whatever. And their first celebrity guest is none other than Victor! Just fucking imagine, like, the cunt that created Alibaba being on a variety show. Or even, like, Mark Zuckerberg. Like, no! Big tech CEOs don't go on variety shows. They're too busy running a multi-billion-dollar company for that. Except for Elon Musk. Fucking that cunt would jump at the chance to be on one of these shows. When's he and Grimes gonna appear with their weirdly named baby on The Return of Superman? Episode 7. Even though Victor was already lined up to be on that show, he still made Project write up all these reports about HBS before he'd go on, just to tell her, oh no, I was always gonna be on that show. I just made you do all that paperwork to be more diligent. Fucking cunt. So they go to the show, which is set in the old facility they used to live in when they were orphan magic children. So Project is locked away in her old cell because this isn't a TV show. This is another evil plan by Black Swan! So it is explained here later on, unlike in the game, that Black Swan has some type of partnership with HBS, but even so, these two stupid people were somehow tricked into thinking HBS was in contact with them and creating a show with them, when in fact they weren't. Like, you can probably Google a fair bit of info about HBS enough to at least realize when they're actually in contact with you and when it's the evil organization of the series. Okay, so they're forced to escape from this old building. And they're all dodging, and Victor's time freezing balls of flames and bullets. And somehow Project is still hit by a fireball despite Victor's broken time freezing ability. Then he's able to create black holes. This had not happened in the game when I last played it. I think black holes have something to do with time, so I guess you can bullshit some reasoning as how black holes is just the evolved version of freezing time or some shit. Though they're pretty small and pathetic black holes, since all he sucks up in them is the very specific henchmen he needed to get rid of, as opposed to the entirety of Earth and multiple other planets in the solar system. And then Project ends up in hospital for over a month! What started out initially as a 2-week stay doubled in that number. Victor brainstorms with her what Black Swan were after in that fiasco, and she's like, considering I've been involved some way or another in all of their terrorist attacks so far, could it possibly be to do with me? And then Victor's like, no, wait, I got it. It was all about me. Kiro calls her up because he hasn't appeared in the last couple of episodes, and the anime wants to remind you who's in the harem. So when Project eventually gets home, she gets a text from Gavin relating to finding out that he's been arresting people and then sending them to be slaughtered. And when she touches the text message, she's filled with a vision of Gavin dying in a fire. I just love how this specific vision was only brought on when she touched her smartphone screen. Like, oh my god, she got the app that activates her evil. Episode 8. Oh man, this show is only up to episode 8. But it feels so long, and it feels like so much has already happened. Oh no. Okay, so Project's vision was of Gavin being caught in a burning hotel room. This vision was clear enough that she even knows the specific hotel this occurred in. She's frantically talking to the receptionist at said hotel about needing to go to room 404. And when he calmly explains that they don't have a room 404, and she asks, well, did there used to be one? Is room 404 currently being built? Like, this guy's just so calm and polite. Like, he's just used to all those Karens coming in and demanding their room be moved because they've been put in a room next to, like, a noisy family or some shit. That he can handle Protag's crazy talk. Since Protag isn't allowed to roam the hotel, she books a room on the 4th floor just so she can snoop it out. Just to be clear, this is a pretty nice hotel. I doubt it'd have any vacancies. Also, god damn, this girl's enjoying her dead daddy-o's inheritance. By the way, I know some Chinese buildings won't have a 4th floor because 4 is pronounced the same as death in Chinese, so it does make sense for the building to not have a room 404, but the room is there. It's a sneaky magic evil room. And Josie, the high school girl they were looking for before, has appeared. And she's out to get Gavin due to his task force murdering her brother. Yeah, fair's fair. When Protag sees her, she literally calls her thingy sister. Like, wow, thanks Protag. Fucking, she's the cat's mothering, you fellow female evols. Something I haven't mentioned yet. This school uniform just has like a sports jacket as part of it, which is realistic. My old high school used to have them as part of the uniform. It's just that it's very normal looking and not super cutesy. Like, it's weird seeing a down-to-earth uniform in an anime series, but this is how you know it's aimed at girls and not guys. Josie calls the project the Queen, and on the spot, she recites the I keep running but staying in the same spot quote, and Josie responds, oh, so you know the Red Queen's quote. Like, this is such an anime response, but does there need to be so much drama around what is essentially a line from a silly children's book? Gavin meets up with a bro who left the force, who then gets sniped in front of him, but not too badly that he can't tell Gavin about the hotel before he dies. Gavin gets to the room as Josie's talking about how the Queen has the ability to awaken and increase the strength in people's evolve powers. This might be in the app game, maybe. Well, I feel like in the app game, it wasn't her setting everyone's powers off, but a radio signal. But whatever. A project is forced to fight back, causing her to set off everyone else's powers. So she turbocharges Gavin's Stalkwind to take Josie out. Victor's just sitting in a room with like damn black holes and they somehow managed to not suck away the entire universe. And Kiro, dear Kiro, is that a handshake event? A fucking loose one. He's standing on stage with just him and this chick. And there's like a couple of security guards, but not a whole lot. Like, damn, this is underground J-pop group levels of lax. Like, there isn't even a table separating them. And when his love me evil powers go off, the chickie's shaking hands with lunges at him. And then all the other girls queuing up start a full-out battle royale with one another. Like, there's gonna be one chick who watches this show and thinks, oh my god, how unpopular. Armies are already brawling one another whenever BTS are in sight, and they don't even have magic powers. Honestly, this scene highlights how lame Kiro's powers are. Honestly, all the powers in this show are bland and kinda lame. It's almost like the main purpose of this show wasn't the plot, but to advertise the Gacha harem game it's based off of or something. We don't get to see Lucian's force field powers go out of control and create little invisible igloo for him to live in. I guess because it wouldn't look as badass or something. The last scene is Lucian yeeting Josie away to some nasty alternate universe. Even though he doesn't have the evil power to yeet people, maybe he used a little electronic device or something to do it. I don't know. Episode 9, it is revealed that after the mess at Kiro's live and the mess that kept occurring elsewhere afterwards, he decided to retire from the music industry. Oh my god, just like the Beatles did! There has been an increase in evil incidents to the extent that the writers of Miracle Finders are like, holy crap, there's so many actual strange things occurring, we don't have to make up some convincing sounding bullshit. Since Protag hasn't checked up on how Lucian's handling the increase in his power, she better go check on him. Even though she hasn't heard from Victor either, I guess because fuck Victor / they needed a Lucian-centric episode. On the way to the uni, he works at a massive billboard with "Curiouser and Curiouser" on it folds. See? This is how you intercept children's quotes into edgy TV shows. You just have little Easter eggs of it here, there, to add a little bit extra depth to your work. Instead of every villain using the same quote in their evil villain speech, like they all didn't know how to write a speech and all accidentally paid off the same guy to write their speech for them. But make sure they're different, my ass! So it goes to fall on her, and the bitch just stands there because she knows her force-filled boyfriend is somewhere in the area. He'll come and save her. The two of them end up working together to figure out why everyone's powers are going AWOL. In the game, this was done during Protag's second trip to the hospital, so thank God we're not having the second hospital admission. Whenever he's working with her, Lucien will just clench at his heart, going "pain" to signify that even though he's evil and gonna screw her over eventually, he still loves her so bad. They demonstrate his "I see no emotions" or whatever it is via him seeing everything in black and white except her. Like, I don't think color blindness can be overcome by love. Just saying. They figure out where the transmitters are, and they go and take them down, but then Black Swan agents appear to take them out. So there's this weird scene. They're hiding from the agents, and Protag tells Lucien to go on alone to dismantle the other transmitters. So she runs out in front of the agents, takes them on a wild goose chase, until she gets to a smallish ledge that's maybe 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters tall. There's this big build-up as she removes her high heels, braces herself, and leaps from a relatively short height. Like, if she landed wrong, she could maybe break some bones, but otherwise it's not that tricky a thing to do. And Lucien's watching on in shock, like, yes everyone, she did a semi-risky jump, getting so worked up over it just feels condescending. She eventually meets up with Lucien again, and they're surrounded by agents. And the agents say how they're from Black Swan, and Protag's like, Black Swan! Who the fuck else would it be? They have been the only evil organization that have been continually fucking shit up for you. Like, who else would have an incentive to stop you from taking down the transmitters? Local police charging you with property damage? Then Lucien confesses to her that he's actually evil, and Protag threatens to kill herself over being handed over the Black Swan via holding up Lucien's old pen to her throat that he let her have before. I think even the anime implies that she wouldn't be able to kill herself with a pen. Like, even that's a bit too far a reach in logic for a show about people with magic powers and where a 22-year-old woman runs her own TV studio. But Lucien has a change of heart and lets her go. How romantic. See guys, he's nice because he chose not to imprison her. That makes him nice as opposed to not a fucking psycho. Now, my whinging was heard. After all the black holes he created, Victor did time travel to the year 2030. Episode 10. Protag arrives at the tower that's causing all this fuss around town. And who's there to help her save the day but Kiro, aka the guy with the lamest power. I'm not sure why he's there. I don't think she asked him for help. He just happened to figure out what was going on by himself. Also took her the entirety of the last episode with Lucien's help in order for her to figure out what was up. Kiro hacks into the system so that the surveillance team can't detect them. But what happens is the guy running surveillance has an evolve where he can control metal. So when Protag and Kiro get in the elevator, there's a fairly large coin just turning midair that neither of them notice this fairly obvious and strange thing happening. Since they're sneaking into a building, they should be on high alert, but you don't even need to be on high alert to notice this supernatural phenomenon. You just need to be in casual everyday mode to freak out and notice the flying coin. Like, honestly. During their elevator ride, Kiro lowers the lights so that he can show Protag the romantic view of the city, whilst explaining how they'll have to come to the cafe here one time for pancakes. Okay. 1. You are sneaking into a building to turn off some bullshit device that's turning people's evolved psycho. Is this really the time for a romantic moment? And 2, considering what you're about to do, you could be left with severe PTSD, or who knows, the building mightn't even still be around after you're finished with it. So yeah, I'd say you're being just a teeny bit keen there, mate. Oh no, they get attacked by the surveillance team because they missed the really obvious security detector flying coin. All the staff are wearing blockers to stop the radio waves from affecting their evo, and Kiro breaks them, and from the looks of things, may have possibly killed a couple of them in the process. Like, yeah, you had to knock them out a bit, Kiro, but murdering nameless henchmen seemed a bit too much. The man with the magic metal powers chucks Kiro out the window. Cut to commercial! Like, okay, bye Kiro. Obviously he survives, but he survives via managing to stick the metal rod in his hand into the wall whilst falling. Like, fuck off. So you're telling me Kiro is handsome, Kiro has an evil power that makes people love him, Kiro is a world-class hacker, and Kiro has intense superhuman strength and reaction time. Okay, this is going less into perfect guy for girls to swoon over territory and more into Mary Sue territory. Kiro is able to defeat this guy's flying metal evo through nothing but his own natural strength alone. Just to really hit home how OP this cunt is. They get to the top of the tower, then yes, it is revealed our Mary Sue has even more new tricks up his sleeve. He uses his evo to control Protag to get her to lock him out so that the bad guys will capture him, but lock her in so that she can disable the radio waves device. Whilst Protag goes to break the device with the handy dandy piece of piping she found lying around, they build it up as this big dramatic moment, like, oh yeah, this woman's so independent and badass, even though literally every other moment to get up to this point was done by Kiro for her. After she breaks the device, Beach yeets off the roof because she knew her stalker wind BF would be there to catch her. I mean, that'd be handy to have a flying stalker boyfriend to just always be there to give you a lift, but then you would have to deal with the downside of him knowing where you were 24/7 and therefore never having any true privacy in your life. Episode 11. What's happened to the world now is all these young evolves have been put into comas to awaken their evolves, which has a 0.01 success rate, which I mean is supposed to be looked at as, ooh, Black Swan are evil, sacrificing people, whilst honestly, it's an incredibly inefficient method of awakening evolves. Like, if these were real life scientists, they'd stop the trials early and think of a better way of awakening evolves. Like, I'm assuming that Black Swan haven't hired any competent scientists for this failed experiment to go this far. These people are getting put into comas by sleeping gas. Sleeping gas that only affects people with evolves. And when Protag questions the possibility of this, Victor responds with something along the lines of, logically it could happen. Nothing. I repeat, nothing in this show is logical. Their version of logic is completely skewered from what actual logic is. After going to the future, Victor decides to be nice to her and help her save the world. Because in the future, bitch was just gone. Like, the future was fantastic, it was peaceful and doing real well, but bitch was gone. So that's got to be fixed. Even at the expense of the safety of the billions of people in that safe future. Hey, I feel some weathering with you vibe. Don't worry, guys, it's not selfish, it's romantic. A blood-soaked Gavin comes to her, and when she asks if he's alright, he says yes. Like, girl, you didn't need to ask him that question in the first place, and boy, you are bleeding. Like, of course you're not alright. What was the point in lying? Her and Victor end up cornered by the villains, where Protag awakens her true power, even though she already has the power to see the future via dreams and the power to awaken other people's evolves. But nah, now they're adding more amazing abilities for her to have. Now she can also shoot light because fuck it, why the fuck not? Gavin ends up being put in a water tank like a fish boy, and Kiro becomes evil. We know he's evil because he's dyed his hair grey. And then Protag has a vision of Lucian on a boat, motherfucker. So that's where she's heading next. Episode 12. Ooh, last step, guys. By the way, majority of what happens now did not happen in the game, so it's all new and exciting for me. Except it's not, because it's a mediocre anime series. Project and Victor are fucking motorboating their way towards this cruise ship like they're Bond or some shit. Throughout the episode, Project has multiple inner monologues about having to save the world because of those she cares about most. And the ones she cares about most are, of course, those 4 hot guys she met like a couple of months ago or some shit, as opposed to her beloved work colleagues or college friends or whatever. All her hot boyfriends are there fighting off the evil minions for her as she goes to fight off the main boss. Gavin flies onto the ship out of a helicopter in his new soldier jacket uniform. Ugh, I'm so glad this made it into the anime series. Lucien now has ice abilities. I don't think he had ice abilities before. I think this is very new and kind of popped out of nowhere. I guess because it's hard to fight off minions with nothing but force fields. Do not ask me why this is set on a luxury cruise liner. Fucking, there is a ballroom on this thing. I don't know why this is the evil villain headquarters. We find out Kiro isn't actually evil now. He just has to be evil because in order to fight the darkness, you must become part of it. Like, listen to this edgy shit. It sounds like the lyrics to a mid-2000s screamo pop-punk group. Project now must face off Hades! He's like some long, ongoing villain I've never been fucked bringing up before. Anyway, his evo is that he takes the darkness from people's hearts and uses it as power and makes little shadowy boys from it like he's some kind of Disney villain. Project passes out and all is lost. But then she remembers the one boy out of all the boys in the series who has been there for her through thick and thin and always believed in her. And that is her old dad. Well, that's a nice twist, that she thought of someone apart from the members of her harem. So nice. She then unlocks her light glowy power and kills off Hades whilst powering up her boys, including Victor, who freezes time so that he can drop a chandelier on the minions. At least one person took advantage of the cruise ship setting for their zany wacky fight. She saves the world. They give it an ambiguous ending. Not sure if it's so that they can continue on with the anime or to entice people to play the gacha. It's so weird because the ending animation is as Ice World Project goes to, which is the last point I got up to in the game before it crashed on me. And this never appears in the anime. That was Mr. Love, Queen's Choice. Look, what I will say is, good on the script writers for this show. They had to take the absolute complete mess and garbage that was the gacha story and they fucking worked their butts off turning it into something that actually feels like a proper story and plot. I mean, it was still awful, but at least it felt like a plot, unlike the game. I'll also give them brownie points for making Protag less useless and making the guys less assholey than in the game. That wasn't something that necessarily needed to be changed in order for the anime adaptation to work, but I appreciate them deciding to implement these changes. Unfortunately, some of the best plots from the game were missed out, such as Protag stalking Lucien as he spends time with multiple women that are not her. Because imagine that. Imagine the gall of the guy to hang out with and flirt with multiple women, almost like there is harem or something. I mean, what kind of disrespectful guy ends up in a harem, Protag? I mean, seriously. And also the one where they did a story on kids with autism, which got leaked to the media without their identities in, like it was gonna happen in the show. But then this is fixed by them reshooting the autism story to make it more tasteful. Yeah, why the fuck wasn't that in the anime? They also missed out on Project randomly saying she likes Fullmetal Alchemist. Like, yeah, FMA Brotherhood's the shit and basically my favorite series ever. But also, it's kinda old. It's not really the go-to cool anime anymore. That's more Titan and My Hero Acca. So yeah, missed out on that weird dialogue too. The animation for this show was so lousy with all the gachas. One thing every single one of them tries to do. In order to entice you to buy cards, they make the artwork really pretty because that is one of the main reasons people play gachas, to look at the pretty artwork. And seeing the super cheap animation that didn't do it justice kind of sucked. Like, they got rid of the only good thing about the gacha. And excitingly, this is the first time I've been able to talk about a reverse harem show, because I have all these scripts written up, but I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do the really bad ones and put them online. Even though I swear like a sailor through all of them, some are just that little bit worse. And that's pretty much all of my reverse harem shows, even though they're some of the best bad anime to watch out there. They're just so terrible, it's hilarious. So it's nice I finally got to talk about one that wasn't so awful. And that was episode 16 of Anime for Trashdwellers on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. Thank you for listening. Bye.